Money, it used to be said, is important only when you haven't got it. And yet today in Britain, thanks to a credit card or two, about 6 million of us get by without it quite well. It's true, we haven't yet reached the situation that exists in some states of America, where a credit card is good enough to bail you out of jail. But in this country, you can buy every conceivable consumer product from shops that are prepared to accept a piece of plastic instead of a cheque or hard cash. Credit cards are undeniably convenient. All the purchases that you make in any one month using the card are totted up by one central office. They send you one account and you pay the bill with one cheque. But every credit purchase also means that the retailer has to pay the credit organisation a discount of anything between 2 and 5%. It's this discount that pays for the credit scheme's running costs. I'd like to pay by card, if I may.
I'm very sorry, sir. We don't accept credit cards.
Well, there are shops that don't accept credit cards. It's this discount which causes the trouble. Take this store, for instance. It depends on a fast turnover, not a large profit for its business success. And if it gives a credit organisation a discount of even 2%, almost all of that profit is going to disappear. So there are shops all over the country who still have to demand a cash transaction, or if you have one of these things, you can pay by cheque. Now this, though it's often confused with one, is not a credit card. It's simply a guarantee that providing my cheque is for less than £30, it won't bounce.
There's been a move to do away with cash for years. Cash is inconvenient. It's bulky, a security risk. And to carry it around safely tends to be expensive. It's reckoned that business without cash would be much more convenient. For everyone.
Banks introduced cheques in an attempt to do away with cash, but because today, even with a guarantee card, cheques are still not universally accepted, it's now being argued that they have failed completely. Certainly despite cheques, cash and everything that goes with it is still very much a part of our everyday life. Okay. Now, the credit card reckons that it's going to succeed where the cheque has failed because it will have the wholehearted support of, you guessed it, a computer. But even so, the task is not going to be easy because not only do some shops dislike giving anybody a discount, some individuals are suspicious of the live now, pay later feel that this whole system has about it. But on the other hand, there's already a fear that the person who doesn't have a credit card will be subsidizing the one who has. The fear is that banks will put up their charges to everybody to pay for the credit card, and that shops and restaurants will put up their prices to everybody in an attempt to recoup the discount that they have to give to the credit organisation. Now, there are two distinct sorts of credit card. There's this sort. This is the prerogative of the international executive. He pays an annual subscription for one of these, and he can use it to pay his airfares, his hotel bills, his bills in restaurants, and he can do a little shopping. But at the end of each month, he'll get a bill for the lot, and he will be expected to pay it. The other sort, and the new card falls into this category, is aimed at you and me. And this sort of card really does allow credit. You can use a card like this to settle a bill that is bigger than the amount of money you've got in your bank account at the moment. Try doing that with a cheque. Then, you decide over what sort of period you're going to settle the debt. It's just like HP on everything, only you decide the terms. And there are no difficult or embarrassing forms to fill in before you start. The machine does it all for you. That sounds grand, but to get an operation like that right, the bank have got to set it up very carefully indeed. £350 million worth of credit in the wrong hands would ruin any banking organisation. And that's perhaps why there's been no rush by British banks to get into the credit card market. The first was launched in 1966. This one being launched now is only the second. And even in America, it's taken 15 years for some banks to persuade themselves that they ought to be in the credit card market. Can I have that in 5s, please?
To launch the new card, it's costing £10 million. Why do banks bother?
Hello. How nice to see you again. How's the wife? Take a seat. Now, what can we do for you? Ah, yes. Why do banks bother with credit cards? Well, the situation is that banks, to some extent, have to keep up with the Joneses. And now that the first British bank credit card is a proven success, and that took more than 4 years, it's become inevitable that the other banks would follow suit. But of course, in the long term, the bank sees the credit card as a way of making money. Because what in effect happens when you buy something using your credit card is the bank buys whatever it is you want at a discount price and sells it to you at full price, and then charges you 1.5% interest on any amount that you don't pay that you owe them at the end of the month. Now, true, if you have your shopping spree at the beginning of the month, you have 30 days or so free credit, and then if you pay for the lot at the end of the month, you can settle the entire month's bill with one check instead of about a dozen. But if you pay back the amount at the slowest rate that's allowed, that's £2 a month or 5%, whichever's the smaller, you are in effect paying over the year interest almost reaching 15%, and that's more than you'd pay on an overdraft or most personal loans. One problem with this whole system is fraud. Almost certainly what is now advocated for the states will one day happen here as well. There'll be a terminal in each shop which will accept every credit card, automatically connect itself to the right centralized computer, which will then check that the purchaser can afford what it is he's trying to buy. If this happens, genuine purchasers will stay solvent, fraudulent users will be discouraged. And of course, that's only one step from the same computer transferring the cost of the purchase from the buyer's bank account to the shop's bank account with no cash, no paperwork at all. But as we move towards our cashless society, a word in your ear. There are those who carry credit cards, but always offer to pay cash, providing the shop will give them exactly the same discount that it would have to give the credit organization. That way, they're getting the best of both worlds.